There. What's this other thing? Okay. Is that better? Okay. Hi. Welcome. It's time for my town hall and campaign update. My name is Susan Maud Buxer-Lahaki. I am a presidential candidate from the 2024 election. And in my opinion, the election is not over yet because I have a lawsuit pending with the Supreme Court. We have votes that went uncounted. And if you saw me on the road yesterday, I went all the way from West Virginia, from Morgantown to Washington, D.C., and I'm on my way back to promote the fact that votes went uncounted. Mine is not the only one, but mine is one. And so I know it's happening. You cannot deny the facts. The fact is that votes went uncounted in this last election, but even in other elections, the votes went uncounted. Now, yesterday was tax day, and that's why I hit the roads, because the reason we founded our country was exactly this point. Taxation without representation. So I did my taxes. I paid my taxes. I paid taxes every day, all day long, actually. It's called sales tax. And yet, the Democrats and Republicans in charge of the election process in West Virginia and all over the country, they did not count votes because the votes that they should have counted would have probably put somebody else in power. And they didn't want that. So shame on the Democrats and Republicans for manipulating our country and the countries around the world. You know, it's unforgivable. It's unexcusable. These people are outlaws, and they need to be arrested. It's unconstitutional not to count a U.S. citizen vote. It's part of our liberties. So, you know, in West Virginia, they told me that there's some regulation that says that if I am not registered, then my vote's not going to be counted. And because I canceled my registration like 2 years ago, they assume that I don't want to vote. But there's nothing in the Constitution that says that a citizen has to do something to receive their liberties. And our liberties are to vote and have it counted. It's not just, the liberty is not just to walk in the door and vote. It's actually to have it counted. So, you know, how can my voice, how can my liberty be heard if it's not counted? But yet I am expected to pay taxes all day long. And then especially once a year, I have to pay income tax. Now, I will say I don't make an income. And the little bit of income I get on money in the bank, that's my income. That's it. So, you know, we got a problem, folks. This is what caused the revolution in our country back in 1776. And it's happening again. We have new kings now. It's called the Democrats and Republicans. And in fact, they're working together. So it's really one king. And this is what George Washington warned us about parties. He wasn't in a party himself and got elected. And this is what happens. You get a group of people who get power, and then they figure out ways and create laws so that they keep their power. And this is what we have. We've been taken over by two political parties who are not, they're not kings and they're not gods. They do not own our country. The beginning of the Constitution says we the people. It doesn't say we the Democrats and Republicans. It doesn't say we the parties of whichever parties are in charge of the country. No, it says the people. So anyways, I took to the road to bring awareness to this, and the The Supreme Court, I call upon you to act on my lawsuit because this is unacceptable. It's unacceptable that I have to pay taxes and that you have to pay taxes. And then each state will decide, the attorney general in each state will decide who actually wins in that state. Because they can manipulate anything. And they do. They've been doing it for at least 100 years, maybe even 150. So, we vote. And that's what they want. They want you to walk in the door because then it looks like they're doing something, So if you walk in the door, you don't vote. They vote for you. That's why it's also being done on computers, because there's no paper trail then. We can't prove anything. They can't prove anything. So it's a wash, It's like whatever you vote for, it doesn't matter. They're going to do what they're going to do. And so my vote did not get counted. I was given a piece of paper and told that I can check it online or I can call in. And at the time, like a week later, they said, you can check. So I didn't have my piece of paper at that time, so I called in and I said, hey, did I vote? How did my vote go? And they said, no, they didn't count my vote because of the reasons I said before, because they claimed that I didn't want to vote because I became unregistered. And in West Virginia, you have to be registered, and then it's their regulation. And so the states are allowed to make the rules of voting, but they seem to misunderstand that always. It's not the rules of voting. It's like, are we going to make the voting paper look like this or that? That's what the real thing is. U.S. citizen votes are supposed to be counted states, West Virginia especially. And, just hearing over the last year and a half, 2 years, the issues in our voting system and what the Democrats and Republicans have set up for us, it's shocking that, we're sitting here with people in office who were voted in that system. I mean, Donald Trump himself declared back in 2020 there was all this fraud, right? But yet this election, after the results of this election, he said, no, everything is good now. So, it's good because he's in? Is that why it's good? Or, why is he now not complaining that there's fraud? Because we use the same system. Nothing changed from 2020 to 2024. The only thing that changed is we moved from a Democrat in office of the president to a Republican. So something is terribly wrong. And we have politicians in office. And I say that meaning politicians will say whatever, they're narcissists. They will say whatever they want to get what they want. And folks, there were illegal practices going on in 2020 with the election, but yet they're still going on now. And that's the problem. So, I wish I knew what's holding up the Supreme Court. Why are they not acting? This is clearly unconstitutional. It's what caused our original country to become a country. Taxation without representation. That's what I learned. That's what I've been told my whole life, and I'm 59 years old. It's not acceptable to be taxed and not represented. Our voice needs to be heard. And the Democrats and Republicans are not listening to us anymore. I'm not alone in this issue. And something needs to stop. We need integrity in our country. We need integrity in our election process, and this is what we're not having. So I don't know. I don't know. But yeah, we got to make some lawsuits. So I know that I met a lot of people on the road who said their voices were also not heard. Their vote was not counted. They couldn't vote. The Democrats and Republicans are also using federal voting machines and materials to run their primaries. And, primaries for parties, so social groups of people who have the same ideology, these people should not be using federal machines or federal anything. They should be going and meeting separately outside of the government and having a Republican primary and having a Democrat primary and having a Green Party and a Libertarian primary. It should not be happening at all through the election system in every state. What should happen is they have their own primaries, and then they call up and they say, hey, election division, this is who we want for president, this is who we want for governor, this is who we want for mayor from the Republicans. It's already decided by them privately. And then you have that too with the Democrats and with all the parties. There should be no party primaries going on anywhere in any state at a government official system for elections. But that's what they do, is they do that, and then they can see how people are voting. And then they know what they have to do to manipulate certain regions. So it's all about, it's called canvassing, is what it is. Canvassing. So they know how many votes from each thing that they want, so that their guy gets in. And it's unacceptable. It's unacceptable. It's fraud, manipulation. And it's unacceptable. So I don't know, do we need another revolution? I was hoping it would go through with the diplomacy of a lawsuit, but that doesn't seem to be happening, sadly. So now we're in a new way. I can't say that Trump is not doing good work. I think he's doing all right. He's doing things that, make sense to me and part of my platform even. So I think I approve so far of what he's doing. It's a little bit, my tariff plan was to look at the tariffs and make sure that they were fair. And, that was also part of it. That's what he's doing, because why should non-states be treated better than our actual United States? I mean, that doesn't make sense. So, yeah, I think the tariffs situation is good. And, we are still open for business. Other countries can become United States. And that's something I said back in 2020. So, I'm all for expanding the United States, but in a non-war, non-violent way. So just simply by having states become states via the normal channels, like Hawaii and Alaska became states. And that's through fulfilling the requirements and then having a vote on it. So I think it's possible that this might happen, but a lot of countries are complaining about the tariffs because they're losing their advantage. And we were giving an advantage to a lot of people, a lot of countries. And it was hurting our country too. So, I approve of his tariff works that he's doing, because we do need to do something about that. Yeah. Yeah. And then, if they want those free tariffs back, they can become a United State. They can fulfill the requirements and become a United State. But it's no longer the United States. Each state will be treated worse than other countries, because you have to have an advantage of being in a country. If the states don't have that advantage of being a United State, then what's the point of being a United State? You know what I mean? So the tariffs, was part of my platform before, so I think it's a good idea. And he seems to be backing down off of the 150,000 tax threshold. So I don't know what's going on there. But he's going back to his plan, which was a certain spot things don't have to be reported anymore, which I think is kind of stupid. Actually, I don't like that plan of his. So that part I don't agree with. But it just, we have to stop making the tax code so difficult. People who make under 100,000 or 150,000, whatever will eventually be, they're not making enough money to get all the benefits from the tax code. And they don't have the money to hire a proper person to do the taxes for them, because taxes are pretty darn confusing now. So anyway, I think we just wipe it out. Anyone making, I say 100,000 and under. But, Trump came out with 150,000 and he had a reason for it. And so, maybe the threshold should be 150,000. So anybody making under 150,000 doesn't have to do income tax, doesn't have to pay income tax, nothing like that. Then what we also, I think, we really need to do, and I'm going to introduce it on my federal tax idea, is we need a completely easy form for everything. Because some people just want to pay tax and be done. And then some people want to get all these deductions. So the ones who just want to pay tax and be done, we just need a simple, easy form that you fill out. Earnings, non-earnings, and then just the taxes I paid, keep them, Some people are happy to pay taxes, but only if their voices are heard. So anyway, the little guy is still being squashed. And this is what we have to stop doing in this country. There are so many people, and there's no need to squash the little guy. I mean, we're all stressed out enough, but what would happen if we stopped squeezing the little guy and squashing him? Life would be better. Everybody would be happier. So it starts with this income tax stuff. The other threshold that I have is 200,000 and above in the bank. If you have cash, that will be taxed at 1%. So 1% wealth tax, because you're sitting on your money, not doing anything with it. And it doesn't matter if it's in the stock exchange, it doesn't matter if it's in your local savings account or in a CD. It's on the value, it's on wealth. So, and it's also not just currency. It will also encompass vehicles and homes and land and other things that are owned of value. So net worth. So your net worth, if you have a net worth of over $200,000, then we will start charging 1% on. You'll have a deduction of $200,000 from your net worth, and then whatever's left over, you'll pay 1%. Because you're holding up the show by not spending your money or not selling or having so much. And we need money for roads. We need money for schools. We need money for the national government to keep buildings safe so that you can come and use them. And a portion of that money will go for Social Security. Probably, or social works. We'll have to see. That part I haven't really ironed out yet. What I noticed is on Social Security, there seems to be a it sort of is based on salary, that you input money, you pay into Social Security, and then at some point it levels off. Now, I don't know why this leveling off is. I suppose maybe if you have $1 million and you pay, 1% on that to Social Security, or if you have $100 million and you pay 1% of that to Social Security. Well, no, that's not really how it goes. No, because once it gets to like $1 million, 1%, it stays there, whether you have or should be percentage-wise giving more. But I think at the end of the day, the ultimate reason might be that Social Security paychecks when you reach the age of retirement, which actually, so you can declare it at 59 and a half, but you don't get paid until you're 63. That's my understanding of how it works in the U.S. right now. So at 63, if you are getting the maximum payout, which is, I forgot what it was, whether it's, I think it's like 4,000 something a month. I have to admit, I don't know. I saw it, but I forgot it. So, you know what, I'm not even going to say it. But it's something like that, somewhere in that ballpark. It might be 3,000 a month or 4,000. I can't remember exactly. But anyways, so if there's like a maximum payout of Social Security, maybe that's why there's a maximum input for Social Security. And people have been saying that Social Security is going broke and all this stuff. But, maybe we just have to raise the bar and tax people more, or I don't know. I'll have to look at that. But I think there might be a reason for this cap, but maybe the cap is a bad idea. What would be wrong with everybody receiving a nice Social Security check? People have been working, producing, because that's what we want, people producing and working and being part of society. I guess, Social Security is also used, it's not just for retirement. And I think this is where maybe we have a slight problem. Maybe we need to separate the categories. So a lot of people are getting Social Security benefits because they're injured. And maybe that shouldn't fall under the word Social Security. Maybe that's a different category, because that could be the problem. We seem to have a lot of injured people who are receiving, payments from the government because they're injured. And some of it's real and some of it's fraudulent. And this is also, from the public, unacceptable. I mean, I know nobody really wants to work, right? But we all like to get to go to restaurants. So somebody has to do something. I mean, on the other hand, we do have robots coming, but I don't know. So let me tell you about working and what I experienced. So I went to Sheets in Virginia or Maryland, to get an espresso, double espresso, and also a latte in 2 separate containers. And so I ordered them by myself, because that's how you order at a Sheets, by yourself at the computer. Then I went over to another computer and I paid for it. And then I waited, and I waited, and I waited. And other people came in and got their stuff and left. And I will say, when I came in, I was greeted. There were at least 4 employees, 3 employees and 1 manager there. And, but the ones making the food, they totally got my simple order screwed up. And, I was told it was because the person was new, but there was supposedly a person who was learning, possibly that night, which is fine. But then what does that say about the person training that person? So was it the person training that person who let them make the wrong thing? Or was it the person, were they lying to me? Maybe they weren't new. I would never know, because I'm just passing through. So were they lying to me? Or, but by the end of the whole thing, I not only never got my order correct, I never got my hot latte. I got a cold latte. I had an espresso shot in there, and the guy just dumped in some milk and called it a latte. And I decided I just had to get out of there, because it was supposed to be a quick stop. I was the only person in there, only customer in the building when I walked in to order my order. It might be racially or age discrimination, because, I'm an old lady, and these were younger folks, and I know sometimes the younger folks they don't like moms, or they don't like aunts, or they don't like women, or they don't like old people. So, I really having trouble figuring out what the heck went wrong. But, at the end of the day, I walked out of there and I realized, since 2 people, one is a trainer and one is the actual, so the person learning, supposedly, that's what I was told. If they took more than 10 minutes to make these 2 drinks that, somebody was supposed to know what they were doing. So what else did they put in there? That was my next step. So sadly I had to throw them out, because I wasn't going to drink that, because I had no clue. The attitude was a little bit arrogant. At the very end, they just said, "Oh, sorry." And I was like, yeah. So, Sheets, I'm sorry. Is this the next step? So I place my order myself. Then I pay for it myself. Then are you just going to have an open kitchen and I walk in and make my own food and my own beverages? At least I'll get it correct, rather than wrong and with attitude. So, maybe that's the next solution. Maybe just have an open kitchen and let people go in and do it themselves. A full do-it-yourself service center, Isn't that what these gas stations are mostly about? But sadly, from the machines, when you do it, the quality is not there. And it's whatever the machine organizer puts in there, and I don't do from that. I want fresh. I don't want something from a machine. So, I guess I just have to stop buying at Sheets for right now, because this incident really left me in a bad mood. Shame on you. So, yeah, that's kind of where I am. And I forgot how I got off on that, but I guess, is this the future? or I guess robots working, So people who actually work and get Social Security because they worked, they should be revered because they actually kept the country going. People getting Social Security because they're disabled, I don't know. I guess part of that money is because they worked, maybe, but part of it has nothing to do with work. And then we have people who are supposedly working but aren't really working, like the two that I met yesterday. So I don't know. We have lots of problems in our country, and how self-service are we going? It's a little sad. It's a little sad. Anyway, I did have to go to another Sheets. That's why I do have a Sheets here. Because it's the only place open where I could get a coffee at the hour I was up that I would consider coffee. And that's about it. So, yeah, we have some issues. We really do. And it starts with voter integrity, election integrity. It's not acceptable that U.S. citizen votes went uncounted. So, Supreme Court, I'm calling on you to vote in a positive way on my lawsuit, and let's move forward. It's time. We're living 1776 again, where I have to pay taxes, but my voice is not being heard. And it's really sad. Come on, you know what you have to do. Okay, so that's the end of my town hall and campaign update for today. Yeah. I hope you had a good tax day, and I hope your voice got heard at least. Mine did not when it came to the last election. And just remember, Donald Trump back in 2020 was saying how much fraud there was in the system, but yet when he got elected this time, suddenly there's no fraud, even though we never changed one thing. Nothing changed from 2020 to 2024. So, on that note, if you want to find out more about me and my lawsuit and everything, go to susan4usa.com. That's Susan, the number 4, USA.com, and have a look at what I'm doing. As you know, I'm also an artist, so I now have a link to my Facebook art page. My art name is Modern Art, and so you can find the link there and come and visit me over there. Or you can find it here on Facebook too. So anyway, that's it. I wish you a nice day wherever you are, and I am working for you because you matter. I want your votes counted too, not only mine. So we're in this together. Thanks for stopping by. Bye for now.